What if the mental health crises we see plastered across our screens aren't actually breakdowns, but a calculated execution of the industry's most lethal weapon? It's March 2026, and the world is finally seeing the pattern Katt Williams warned us about years ago. We're currently living through the Great Silencing, where Hollywood's biggest memes are systematically dismantled and labeled erratic the moment they speak a truth the elites can't afford to let out.
I infiltrate the Illuminati. Find out what the fuck they got going on. Get the information. Run back to y'all. Tell y'all everything I know. That's my motherfucking job. But I don't know how many more times I'm gonna be able to sneak in there. Thanks to Shannon Sharp and 90 million views, I can't sneak very often. So while I was in there this last time, knowing that my last report might be my last report, I went in there and I got information for everybody. Look at my white friends. Us too? That's right, white secrets.
The strategy is simple. If you can't buy them, you break them by convincing the world they've lost their minds. In 2013, Wendy Williams did the unthinkable by discussing the feminization of hip-hop and naming high-level producers like Diddy. At the time, she was dismissed as a gossip and a liability. Today, she is effectively a ghost, locked in an assisted living facility with her fortune and her autonomy under the total control of court-appointed guardians.
Right, well, Kanye had the kilt, and then ASAP had the long dress.
Yeah.
Have you seen the ASAP picture?
Yeah, I'm not down with any of that. I mean, wouldn't be my man.
No?
No.
We brought in Lord Jamar from Brand New because he had made some comments about that.
What did he say?
Well, he talked about the whole feminization of hip hop culture from the 80s on.
I think he's taking the words out of my mouth.
Yeah, I mean, he talked about how when we were younger, you would wear an earring in your left ear, and that was considered straight, and the earring in your right ear, that'd be gay, and then at one point, people started wearing both earrings, and and
then they started wearing girl pants, and then they're wearing jeggings, and then, yes, it's very effeminized, but be very clear, there were lots of homosexuals in hip-hop back in the 80s too, that was what's worse, hip-hop wearing skirts or hip-hop being closeted and having a plethora of kids to prove manhood that, and denial of something that you shouldn't have to deny, which is your sexuality. So I hear what Jamar is saying, but we come from a very homosexual era of hip-hop as well. There was a radio personality once upon a time. Her name was Wendy Williams, and she was practically burned at the stake for talking about such, and now it's all come full circle.
New 2026 medical depositions suggest Wendy never actually had a progressive condition at all. Instead, her instability was allegedly the result of a chemical cocktail designed to protect the people she was exposing in the 90s hip-hop scene. Katt Williams called this a decapitation, performed in broad daylight. Now, more celebrities are facing emergency guardianships to stop them from mentioning names related to the now public Epstein and Diddy case files that have flooded the internet.
A series of depositions that not only prove that she's being held against her will, but also threaten to dismantle the Hollywood paedophile ring's sinister web of coercion and control. We've got the tapes, and they're shocking. It's clear that Wendy is currently living in fear for her life. They're locking up a mentally stable woman who holds incriminating evidence against some of the world's most powerful people, and they're doing it in broad daylight in front of the entire world.
Wendy Williams is locked in a room in an assisted living facility in New York. That's her. The only way I could interview her was to have a camera in the street because we can't get a camera in. She can't really have any visitors. She cannot go outside. She's been out twice in the last 30 days. She has no internet. She, and I think rightly says, she feels like a prisoner.
Terms of Wendy's guardianship seem to be extreme. I've spoke to her several months ago, and she just sounds like the same Wendy. Yes, is she quirky? Sure. Is she eccentric? Sure. She always has been.
And now a new revelation. Her team says a new medical evaluation ordered by Wendy's court-appointed legal team finding she does not have frontotemporal dementia.
She does not have frontal lobar dementia. So that should be game, set, match.
Katt Williams' legendary 2024 interview was the roadmap for this current purge. He spoke about the chokehold that elites held over artists, offering money and fame in exchange for their total integrity. Katt famously turned down $50 million contracts 4 separate times just to keep his soul intact. He knew that the moment you signed those specific types of deals, you stop being a human being and start being property of a very dark machine. He famously referenced the salt trap analogy to explain this phenomenon. A baboon is trapped because he won't let go of a lump of salt in a hole, making his fist too big to escape the hunter. Katt and Dave Chappelle were smart enough to let go of the bait. But in March 2026, the final release of unredacted federal files shows that those who stayed greedy are now being pulled into a legal nightmare they cannot escape.
Comedian Dave Chappelle left tens of millions of dollars on the table when he walked away from his popular Comedy Central show. A lot of people wondered what the hell was he thinking? And that's a quote. Chappelle says he had,
he was thinking.
or whether he was thinking. A lot of people ask that question. Chappelle says he had a crisis of conscience and stood up for his integrity as an artist. He explained to us how stepping out of the spotlight helped him avoid getting caught in a trap.
It's so much bigger than money, though, Dave. It's so much bigger than money.
I don't know what's bigger than money. But you know what? I watched one of these nature shows one time, and they were talking about how a bushman finds water when it's scarce. And they do what's called a salt trap. I didn't know this. Apparently baboons love salt.
Okay.
So they put a lump of salt in a hole, and they wait for the baboon. The baboon comes, sticks his hand in the hole, grabs the salt makes his hand bigger, and he's trapped. He can't get his hand out. Now, if he's smart, all he does is let go of the salt. Baboon doesn't want to let go of the salt. Then the bushman just comes, takes the baboon, throws him in the cage, and gives him all the salt he wants. And then the baboon gets thirsty, the bushman lets him out the cage. The first place the baboon runs to is water, bushman follows him, and they both drink to their fill. And in that analogy, I felt like the baboon. But I was smart enough to let go of the salt.
Isn't that a great analogy?
What an analogy!
I know. He's very, very thoughtful and very, very smart.
How did the elites maintain this level of control for decades? Recent leaks expose a network of compromised professionals known as the Epstein doctors. Shocking email dumps have linked prominent figures like Dr. Peter Attia to the ring, using coded language about fresh shipments and outrageous lives. The implication is chilling. Doctors trusted for health advice were allegedly managing the medical needs of high-level traffickers and ensuring celebrities remained drugged or incoherent.
One of the country's most prominent physicians is in the Epstein files, and the emails look pretty damning. Dr. Peter Attia is a longevity doctor who is a New York Times bestselling author and the host of a popular podcast. Here is an alleged email from Dr. Peter Attia to Leslie Groff, who was one of Epstein's assistants, and it says, "No, thank you so much. See you next time. Hopefully JE in town when I'm back in 2 weeks. I go into JE withdrawal when I don't see him." And this email apparently between Dr. Attia and Jeffrey Epstein with the subject, "Got a fresh shipment. You the biggest problem with becoming friends with you? The life you lead is so outrageous and yet I can't tell a soul." To which Jeffrey E. replies, "'Fraid not." And there's another email with language that I don't want to share with you here today that is just not good. One person is reporting that there are 175 pages of documents with Dr. Attia in the Epstein files. Now, I don't know Dr. Attia, I never met him, but I did not have this on my 2026 bingo card.
This medical corruption makes the crazy label their most effective silencing tool. When a celebrity starts talking about what they saw at private parties, the industry doesn't argue the facts, they just call a compromised psychiatrist to diagnose a manic episode. The star is force-fed sedatives until they appear unstable to the public. Katt calls this decapitating the king, a tactic used to discredit any witness who threatens to expose the corporate structure.
This is a photo taken in Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan townhouse. It seems to show a doctor performing a medical procedure on Mr. Epstein's dining room table. We looked through about 15,000 records from the Epstein files to understand how Jeffrey Epstein cultivated and rewarded a small circle of doctors as a means of control over the women in his orbit. Mr. Epstein dictated when these women got plastic surgery, even when they went to the gynecologist. And he could also take medical care away. In some cases, you also see the doctors help Jeffrey Epstein maintain that control over these women's lives. Here's one really striking example. Jeffrey Epstein is flying back from his island in the Virgin Islands to New York with a young woman who has suffered a really serious injury. He reaches out to somebody named Eva Dubin, former girlfriend of his and the founder of the Dubin Breast Center at Mount Sinai. And he says, this woman fell off the ATV and needs stitches in her forehead. Can you organize? She responds, okay, Jess Ting, a plastic surgeon at Mount Sinai, is standing by. Call me as soon as you land. And then you see the next day from Jeffrey Epstein, Dr. Ting put 35 stitches in her head, laid out on the dining room table. And that brings us back to this photo, which appears to be of Dr. Ting. Dr. Ting declined comment on this photo. When we talked to medical experts, they said, there's no way you do this if you were putting the patient's needs first. If you were doing that, you just take her to the hospital. There's much more equipment, there's many more people, the risk of infection is lower. The only reason you do this is if you were putting somebody else's needs first.
Look at the tragic case of Chris Trucker. Once the biggest comedian on earth, he suddenly vanished from the spotlight at the height of his career after commenting on Michael Jackson. Katt Williams called him Epstein Island Chris Trucker, a claim confirmed by the March 2026 file releases. Trucker was on that 2002 flight to Africa with Epstein and Bill Clinton. The industry didn't have to silence him. They compromised him so deeply that he had to silence himself just to stay alive.
Chris Tucker that we got now is
you knew Jeffrey Epstein, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. We flew Bill Clinton and a lot of different. That was a humanitarian trip to Africa, and I met him on that trip because it was his plane. I didn't know who plane we was getting on, but it was a whole bunch of dignitary people. We was with a delegation, and I met him, and you don't know people what they do in their private lives, so yeah.
But you gotta tell me this, Chris. You was on this private plane, and you could tell that it was a private plane because they called it, was this Lolita Express?
Oh yeah, it was a private plane. Yes. Oh yes.
But wait a minute. You didn't never go to that island, did you?
No.
This is the silent treatment of 2026, a sophisticated form of blackmail. Celebrities become aces in a deck of cards held by people like Harvey Weinstein or Diddy. Katt recounted being offered famous actresses like they were playing cards in a private meeting. He realized that in the eyes of the elites, people aren't human beings. They are just assets to be traded, used, and discarded once their secrets become a liability to the board.
Were there things that you didn't take in your career that you feel like were are there things to look out for, do you feel like?
There wasn't for me because I knew I wasn't going to take it, but I did want to get offered. Yeah. You know what I mean? And most of the stuff I wouldn't have believed until I had to get to a certain level to get to see the proof. You know what I mean? So I was as shocked as anybody about how powerful Harvey Weinstein was at the time that I was meeting with him, and how he could not be told no, that he get whatever he want. You follow what I'm saying?
They'll figure out some way.
Right, so I thought that didn't apply to me because I don't care about nothing, but
bitches in good business, right? And then he offered me 2 actresses like they was playing cards. And I was like, what?
Like he just jumped in the head.
He was like, I know you.
Damn.
Right, like, what?
Some aces.
No, my personal aces.
Yeah. Did you think about it?
Look, I'm not. In these scary situations, I don't even leave it up to me. Like, I'm gonna do what a superhero would do in this part of the movie, regardless, and deal with what happens after. Yeah.
Katt predicted 2026 as the year of the final account. As the money stops flowing, executives do whatever it takes to eliminate artists who are no longer controllable. Dead artists are often worth 3 times more than living ones due to life insurance and catalog resale value. We're seeing a surge in corporate executions disguised as accidental OD'd incidents, allowing the labels to cash in on the tragedy while the truth stays buried.
In order for the type of ratings we need and attention to be on this thing. See, what I'm saying is, in business, nothing is coincidental, or you would be hearing who's losing money. In all of these situations, it's only the artist that's losing. Somebody makes big money. When these rappers get killed, not incidental. Somebody made $100 million and now don't have to talk to that artist or none of their crew, don't have to validate none of their contracts. Now only got to deal with the mama, only got to see her once a year, and it's over. And the money goes up and up and up. So they killed this $20 million guy, but they reached $60 million in benefits.
Wow.
And they had some people from your city do it.
Wow.
I'm saying there's the good side and the bad side of these businesses, and
but think about what you just think about what you just said. That's extremely thoughtful and powerful.
Put any other names together. The police are out on stage, they've cut to commercial, you didn't see what happened. By the time they come out, people have been removed, it goes on. It's certain ways things are handled when it's not intentional. When things go smoothly, but they seem chaotic, that means there was forethought and a plan. Somebody, even if it looks like, yeah, Janet Jackson just had a wardrobe malfunction. Yeah, there's no such thing.
Correct.
I don't care who you blaming.
I believe that.
Somebody benefited. Yeah. So in all of these situations, there's a business involved and there's real money involved, and somebody's benefiting from this thing that looks like, oh, that just happened. Nah, no way. No way.
If you look at the headlines today, on March 29th, 2026, you can see the targets being prepared for the fall. Major pop stars are being described as having spiritual crises or cognitive decline after canceling major projects. The playbook is running in real time. The same doctors and media outlets are lining up to tell you these people are insane. But after Wendy Williams, we've seen this pattern too many times to keep believing it.
You say that. But your
we
fans
take it
have
another
a
way.
difference of opinion.
We your fans. We think you cold.
Prove my points.
Well, that's why I said your fans have a difference of opinion.
But Dave Chappelle was decapitated in front of us. And until we deal with that, until we deal with the fact that a devout Muslim who doesn't eat bacon was accused of being a crackhead, until we establish the fact that they said that he went to Africa to smoke cocaine when we know they don't have running water and food over there, when they don't have paved roads over there. You saying he flew past Chicago and Miami and LA and New York and Detroit. You saying he went past Cleveland and Fort Pierce, Florida, and he went past Okeechobee and Oakland. You say he went to another country where they're not eating.
Right.
You talking about somebody who has a wife and children, 5 children, and lives on a farm, doesn't live here in Hollywood. You saying you convince people that person was an insane crackhead, and he hasn't been on movies and TV for 8 years? Is that correct? Okay, then don't tell me about what you want to tell me about. I just watched you decapitate the king in front of me, and then act like he's supposed to catch up and be a regular comedian like everybody else. But no.
He didn't go for that.
That's not how, and he was out there with us for 20 years. They called him Pilot Boy because he had 19 pilots in Hollywood, and everybody passed on him and said his show wasn't worth it.
What do you think of?
Then when he made $500 million, they said even though his contract said he should get half of it, they said he made too much for the contract to be valid, so we'll offer you 10% of what you made. You mean he made $500 million and they offered him 50? Yes. And he said, what do you think my fans are gonna say when they find out you offered me 10% of what I made you? And they said, your fans will believe that you're a crazy crackhead by the time you get home. And my nigga got on the flight in LA, and by the time he got to Ohio, it was so. And 8 years later, he hasn't been in a movie and or television. Is just now trying to do his real comeback at Radio City Music Hall.
Hollywood is a fantasy island that turns into a prison the moment you try to leave with your secrets. Katt Williams is one of the few survivors who managed to stay on the outside while maintaining his status as a witness. He spent the last 2 years proving his point, watching as the people he named were hauled into court or vanished from public view entirely. He showed us that the most dangerous thing is to be a witness.
Everybody is a supplier. Epstein, Weinstein, like these guys knew what these extremists liked and provided it, and provided the way for you to to have $1 billion and not create a fantasy island type environment has not existed throughout history.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if I was going to run some global power organization, I would try to co-opt every single leader, try to suck for support, bring them out to wherever the I have my big ass meetings, fly everybody in private jets, talk about the climate crisis.
All organizations have to follow the same rules.
Yeah. That's wild.
Recruitment is an important facet of all.
We have to get some young global leaders.
Well, understand, this is the only reason that we can talk about these big Illuminati-like entities at this period of time. Is just because of time. They aged out. You can't get in new. So everybody got decrepit over there, and they can't exchange, really.
Wendy Williams knew too much, and her silencing was a warning to the rest of the industry. But in 2026, the truth is finally leaking through secret tapes and unredacted depositions. The Silicon blacklist is crumbling, and the world is realizing that the crazy ones were the only ones telling the truth. The final chapter of this empire is being written, and the cage is finally falling on the corrupt machine itself.
No, this is their 9th time coming to my house. The problem was this time they came to my office and took my kids from an office, not from my house, from an office. So now when I can't have my kids at my office,
that's an issue.
I must be the most terrible black dude. Because here's the whole thing. You're gonna charge me with child endangerment after I adopted 7 children and had them for 14 years in this state? Really? You coming after my kids now? Because it was already a witch hunt. Now you want my babies? Yikes.
But I want to hear from you. After seeing what happened to Wendy Williams and hearing the precision of Katt's warnings, do you think we're actually witnessing the collapse of the old guard? Or is the industry just getting better at hiding the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The algorithm might try to bury these stories, but it can't silence a community that's finally paying attention. Let's get the conversation started.